Over the past several years, we have been witnesses to what can simply be described as the fall of the entertainment industry, from bad movie remakes, bland TV shows with uninteresting characters that nobody cares about, all the way to decaying video game franchises that feel the need to simply put out a new product devoid of any soul and as fresh as a beefsteak left out in the sun for 6 days. And while the reasons this decay has been getting worse and worse are certainly many, there is one overlapping factor that is present in almost all formats, and that is the preaching of the message. It just seems that every time a studio wants to release a remake or a retelling of a story, the inclusion of the message, which consists of filling out the official checkboxes for diversity, inclusion and girl boss characters and certain group of people who need to be placed in leading roles despite making no sense in the realm of the story itself, is always the first pillar holding the whole thing to fall down crumbling.
I need you to fix his suit.
The suit is literal perfection.
It will be. When it fits a woman.
In every example of such failings, you can always see a pattern, which usually consists of a diversity hire, be it an actor or director, with no experience or charisma, who is simply there to fill a quota. That by itself, to any normal person, sounds extremely insulting, as those people are not hired based on their talent, but by their race, biological gender, or sexuality. Pardon me if I'm wrong, but to me something like this does sound extremely insulting. In time, these choices gave enormous material to critics who used platforms like YouTube to express their opinions and grievances, especially towards once great shows that were slowly being turned into bland, obnoxious propaganda-filled advertisements for the woke movement, which specialized in the demonization of the strong male character in favor of the girl boss movement. This also included the replacement of good storytelling, three-dimensional characters, and interesting developments in favor of virtue signaling and calling out everyone who doesn't think the way the creators think. And as those people became more vocal and started getting influence over the mainstream media, proving to be a more trustworthy source of information, a question started to be asked more and more frequently. Why don't woke people simply make their own stories instead of destroying what we love? And they did. And the name of what they did is called Dustborn. Now I won't talk much about the game. I covered a bit in 2 of my previous videos, which you can watch. However, Dustborn is the crowning jewel of what I have chosen to call the complete lack of creative thought.
You are racist.
See, creativity usually thrives in the minds of people with usually traumatic or at the very least harsh experiences. Creativity loves sadness, hurt, hardships, and it thrives when the person uses those things, battles through them, and comes out on top with a rich experience and lessons that were learned on a deep level. What follows is that the same person armed with these forces that they wield starts to create, will it be a song, a game, a novel, or a simple limerick, it always comes from deep within and it is always entwined in that person's experiences that brought them to this place. One of the most perfect examples of this is Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, which in my opinion is one of the best, if not the best, in both written form and adaptations in the face of the trilogy. Tolkien's work expressed and wrapped personal experiences, feelings and thoughts all in a bundle, creating something truly magnificent, and the depth to which he went explaining and expanding and creating all of his stories is something that not many people can rival. The crowning jewel of his hard work being Lord of the Rings is both a marvelous experience to read as well as to watch, because Peter Jackson leaned extremely heavily on the notion of adapting and respecting the source material, changing as little as possible and never things that would ultimately change the core of the story. In the same context, The Rings of Power fails for that exact same reason, for it is devoid of any creativity, or at least one that can be considered coherent and smart. It is a dollar store knockoff filled to the brim with unnecessary elements, abhorrent perversions of what has been established as lore decades ago, and it is completely deprived of any sense of accountability and self-awareness. It completely throws away three-dimensional characters, their struggles, the way the official story progresses, all the tension that has been inputted into Tolkien's works, especially in the book The Silmarillion, which the show loosely derives from, and it changes it with surface level drama and attempts at completely destroying established characters and their relationships with one another that were described ages ago. What the creators of the Rings of Power do not understand is that it's not enough to copy feelings or to connect with someone else's vision, because once what you're making is complete, it will always wear the clothing your own experience have weaved, and if they're shallow and few, it will only produce a torn, unsightly cloak that no one would want to touch. Now, I don't want to come off as someone who has completely lost hope on anything new being good. For instance, indie game developers, small book and comic book writers have begun to rise, telling compelling stories and not being burdened by the chains of the message. We also see a growing number of independent movie titles which are storming the movie awards each year with a steady increase in power and popularity. Perhaps this is what the future holds for entertainment, or the ashes of a once mighty ecosystem which gave us soul foods like Terminator, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and more, that have all been turned into bland, distasteful corporate canned products with the creation of the latest versions. The small, locally grown foods will rise, offering fresh products that many people will turn to and find out how much better the taste is in comparison of what they were used to. Or perhaps a time of renewal will finally come, and the ecosystem will go back to its roots, planting new strong seeds, breaking the chains of corporate greed, and once again being in service of those who actually give something back, mutually nourishing each other in what was once a well-kept balance. What is to come? Only time will tell. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed my content, and if you did, consider pressing the like and subscribe buttons on my channel, as well as following me on my social media accounts and my Patreon, where I am trying to raise money for homeless animals and animals in shelters. My name is Helzo and I'm DiscussThing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers and stay fresh.